Welcome back to this series of conversations. This is the Dark Reading News Desk at RSA. I'm Terry Sweeney, contributing editor to Dark Reading. Joining me now is Karthik Krishnan, CEO and founder of Concentric AI. Karthik, thanks so much for joining us on News Desk today.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to start with some context setting. I'm curious, what is top of mind for the InfoSec practitioners and IT executives that you talk to regularly around where AI and automation are concerned?
Yeah, cybersecurity, cyber criminals aren't stealing credentials or gaining access to networks just for the thrill of it or to gain access to devices. They're after the enterprise's data. And securing the data layer has never been more important. And yet, while security practitioners have a lot of extremely good tools to help them with authentication, with intrusion detection, perimeter security, they don't have a lot of effective solutions for data security. And data volumes are growing, data is sprawled all over the place, both on-premises as well as in the cloud, and they're really looking for help. And that's where they think AI and automation can actually help them.
Talk about where AI is best suited to address security challenges, whether in the SOC or on the desktop.
Yeah, so AI tools, if effectively deployed, can be tremendously helpful to either perform capabilities that you simply can't get today by throwing humans at the problem, like for example, crunching vast amounts of data and giving you insights without emotion, without human error, and helping you automate tasks that traditionally would have been a very manual, error-prone process.
There must be an anecdote or a use case that you might be able to share with us that illustrates what you're talking about here.
Absolutely. There's a customer of ours, a high-tech customer. The challenge they came to us with was they said, look, we need to understand where a lot of our intellectual property, specifically a lot of our very sensitive design documents, are getting shared in a manner that's inappropriate. Specifically, they said, look, we need to find out where employees are sharing these sensitive assets with their own personal Gmail. And if you think about that as a challenge, it's an extraordinary challenge because A, you have to first identify where all of your design documents are, and then to be able to come back and say, okay, where is this essentially being shared by employees with their own personal Gmail? So that's a good use case where AI is helping them get context around their data, and then also helping in a pretty targeted manner identify where the risk might be to that information.
So it's more than just a simple email filtering exercise. Can you say more about that?
That's right. For example, if you were just to look within your Google Drive or Office 365 for data that's been shared with a personal Gmail, you're probably going to get 1 million hits. It's going to throw up terabytes of data. How do you in a targeted manner identify where it may be correlated with sensitive data being shared in that manner? And so that's where, for example, we, in our case, bring deep learning and advanced natural language processing to help them contextually understand their data so they can identify their design documents in a manner that is almost impossible to do just by throwing humans at that problem.
Okay. Karthik, you mentioned a few minutes ago the data volumes that are basically inundating InfoSec professionals in the SOC. For which AI is well suited to address. Talk a bit about how AI starts to resolve those issues and what improvements, if any, we can expect in this area.
Yeah, so AI is a means to an end. It's a way in which you can get, as I said, insights that you otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to get, and or automate a lot of tasks that were traditionally manual and error-prone. Now, the downside of AI is it also tends to be probabilistic results, which means you're going to get not necessarily with certainty that something is anomalous, but a probabilistic view into things. And when you're presenting probabilistic results, you have to present it with context so that the SOC investigator, the InfoSec analyst can decide for themselves whether this is something that they need to pursue and triage, or if this is something that they can choose to ignore. And that's where, for example, we've always believed Behavioral analytics has been a very difficult challenge for enterprises to get a handle on, where AI is being applied, where AI tools will tell you, for example, that there was an anomalous login at 2 a.m. But what's relevant to the InfoSec analyst to understand what the user actually did at 2 a.m. What data did they access? Did they end up exfiltrating sensitive data that they otherwise shouldn't have? And so a contextual understanding of what happened is extremely important to ensure that the SOC analysts have the information that they need to be able to triage these things effectively.
Okay, I mean, the probabilistic nature of the results, that's probably the best description I've heard of the power of why AI has captured the security industry as deeply as it has. Thanks for that. I'm sure you get this question from existing and prospective customers all the time, but what advice do you have for people who are examining AI and whether it's relevant or appropriate or useful to their organization?
Yeah, the AI is the means to an end, and it has to help satisfy a business outcome, either delivering you with risk insights that you simply didn't have otherwise, or helping automate tasks that traditionally were manual, error-prone, burdensome, taking years of effort. And so the best way to evaluate a tool is to match it back to business outcomes, and if at all possible, test it out within your real-world environment and make sure that it is going to meet the outcomes that you set out at the start.
Right. Concentric just recently closed a round of financing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What sorts of things might we expect from the company going forward?
Yeah, at Concentric AI, we are pioneering autonomous data security. We're helping enterprises discover and protect their massive volumes of data without spending a lot of effort. We're bringing deep learning to this problem where without the customer having to write a single rule or policy, we're helping them identify all of their mission critical data, from business confidential data to intellectual property to PII, PCI, PHI. And once we discover this data, we're also autonomously helping them identify risk. For example, inappropriate permissions, inaccurate entitlements, misclassification, and so on. And also consequently being able to remediate those issues. And we initially used our seed round to bring it to market, and we have successful deployments from financial services to healthcare to high tech. Customers deploying up to a petabyte of data that we are monitoring for them. We just successfully raised our $14.5 million Series A round from Ballistic Ventures and Citi Ventures. Ballistic is a cybersecurity focused fund led by industry notables like Tetchline, Barmack Mefta, and Derek Smith. And we're looking to use the money to accelerate our go-to-market where we can take some of the initial traction we have seen and bring autonomous data security to a broader swath of enterprises.
Karthik, nothing probabilistic about any of that. Thanks for joining us for the Dark Reading News Desk today.
Thank you for having me, Terry.
We've been talking with Karthik Krishnan of Concentric AI. This has been Terry Sweeney with the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this conversation. We'll see you next time.